Hey guys, and welcome back to Barn Chats with Becky. So this is episode 2. I have one of my OGs, Laura, with me. We go back 7 years. Mad. We were calculating this last night.
Yeah. From Facebook.
From
who
Facebook.
even uses Facebook?
Like, we're like, how long were we friends? When did I send you the friend request? 7 years. So we done sports and remedial massage together. And that's how we met. It was like our energies vibing, our touch. But yeah, so when I started doing this, I was like, I know I want Laura on the couch. And it was funny, we were only chatting about it this morning, that I have never really asked you and delved into your history.
Yeah.
And you were like asking me like why?
Yeah.
And I was trying to comprehend. I was like, why didn't I ask? You know?
Yeah.
And I was kind of saying maybe it was because I wasn't in a place to truly listen and understand and comprehend. Maybe I didn't feel like worthy to hear your story in a way.
Yeah.
But
it was never a case of like, why aren't you asking me what goes on in my life? Like,
yeah,
it was never like that. But it just never happened.
It just never happened.
Yeah.
Whereas like now it's
a different
I think situation.
we have and a different relationship, I feel.
Yeah. So you lost your mum.
Yeah.
At a really young age.
Yeah.
Five,
yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you lost her to suicide.
Yeah.
So I was asking you kind of like how you found out earlier on. You said you found out in the hospital. So at that age, how do you even
get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, when I was growing up and I was told, like, the first time I was told she had died, I remember being like, I knew that, like, dead meant, like, not coming back. I knew that at that age, somehow.
Okay.
And I remember getting, like, a sinking feeling when I was told that, like, what? Like, what? But when you're younger, you know they're not coming back, but you don't understand suicide when you're 5 years of age.
Yeah.
You just know all of a sudden you have your mom growing up, and all of a sudden then she's gone, and it's like, that, I think, at that age.
But you couldn't figure out like what suicide was, or like that, like obviously,
yeah. But it's funny because like it's not funny, but I used to you know, she like slipped on a banana skin and must have hit her head, and that's how she died. Like as a child, that was how I like broke that down, or that's how I understood it, and I don't know where that came from.
Okay.
So I think from that age, like it was, I wouldn't say it was easier, but it was harder growing up because I really had to like learn and understand what actually happened. And it was nearly worse because you were like nearly going through it again because you're actually finding out what happened.
Exactly.
And you're understanding it more, and you look into like the psychology of it or reasons why, and then so it's kind of like it was nearly a longer process.
Yeah,
like,
it was nearly like the initial shock and then a pause, and then when you could actually kind of figure it out, it was like this whole other wave of like that really happened.
Yeah, 100%.
And then your dad wasn't in the picture either, so you really didn't have a parental figure around then. Like, so who to turn to even at that age to feel comfort or security or kind of normality. You know, you'd nothing to kind of, everything changed. It wasn't like you could still kind of go on with some sort of routine. It was literally like everything got turned over. So you went to
my auntie, so my mom's sister. So she would be my legal guardian. But like I call her my mom. Like, you know, it's been years now. Like she's my mom. You know? Yeah.
And that was one thing when we were hanging out, because like it was like I was trying to figure it all out. And I was like,
everyone's like, wait, hang on. Do you like go on here?
And so how was the adjustment to that then?
I feel like it was fine at the time because I was so young. I was like, oh, I'm going over to my auntie's and, you know, with her sons, which are my brothers, you know.
Yeah.
At that time, I don't remember feeling oh God, this is an adjustment. I don't remember that.
Okay.
All I remember, like, from what had happened was, like, where's my mom? And getting upset with that rather than where am I and why am I here now and X, Y, Z. I never remember that feeling.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's because I was younger or because I, like, subconsciously blocked it out. I don't know because I was so young.
Yeah.
But there was no what is going on. I think as I got older, I think I got obviously, you know, more curious and more like, hang on a minute, what is actually going on here? Or like, I need to figure this out in my own head. But at that time, there was no like, what's going on? I think I actually like settled in actually quite well considering.
Yeah. And how did your mum and dad like deal with kind of breaking it to you the second time when you were really starting to kind of come to terms and figure out, right, okay, that's actually what happened?
Yeah, like I know when I was younger I did a lot of counselling at that age.
So were you put into counselling pretty much straight away, which I think is amazing.
It's amazing, but at the time, like, it's funny now, like, at the time, and I think it really, really did help. It helped in terms of routine and it gave me some sort of sense of normality in some ways, I feel.
Okay.
Like, and even growing up, I wasn't like I was actually a really good child. Like, I wasn't off, like, getting drunk underage. I think I did it once and then I got a bollock and I never did it again.
Yeah.
And I didn't find it extremely difficult, but
you didn't rebel.
I didn't rebel. I wasn't like, you know, I actually look back and I handled it very well.
Do you feel that was because you were put into counselling at such a young age to kind of, as you were growing up, you were processing it at each stage?
Yeah, and I think I've always been very like vocal in terms of how I feel, or if I feel, I ask questions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would always ask like certain members of the family, or I'd, you know, I try to understand it, because that, like anything, you understand something, you feel better, do you know? So I think I always tried to understand as I grew up. But I remember the counselling that I did at that age, they had this like snakes and ladders game.
Okay.
And that's all I did.
Right.
And I remember, I always remember, I used to look forward to going into the counselling, because like they had this big, it was like the size of the floor, this like snakes and ladders game.
Yeah.
And I remember like the counsellor sitting there and I'd be like, whatever, and she'd say, you know, Laura, and what do you think about this? So it was obviously like a way to try and but I don't remember like talking about anything, but I obviously was like, it probably was yes and no answers, but I did that for a while.
Yeah.
And then I didn't go anymore up until I suppose more recently.
Okay. And looking back at it now, do you think it should have kept going? Or did that break do you good?
Do you know, it's funny, I think the break did me good not for like, I suppose, a lot of reasons. I probably could have stayed in it the whole time. I should like
obviously probably not as intensely, but like a monthly checkup or
100%. But also I feel like I'm nearly not happy that I am. Yeah, actually I am. I am happy that I didn't constantly do it, because I think I allowed myself to feel everything that I needed to feel in my own time, and there was no sort of like rushing to feel better, or I was able to ask more questions rather than being in counselling or being guided the whole time.
You could kind of step back,
Yeah.
make a few mistakes, figure it out a little bit,
get angry and
then be like, okay, maybe I should go back and check in a little bit. And like when you consciously realise that, okay, I need a deload session, I think it's healthy to be able to recognise you need a deload
100%.
session. And I think taking a break from counselling gives you that ability to get to the point that you realise you need a deload session. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm going to a therapist, I need one, but then I need to leave you alone. So I'll come back to you again. Thank you very much.
I need to realise I need you. You know? It's like we need a break just to make sure that I need you. But going back to a really important thing that you said, that you were really vocal. And this is one thing that I'm trying to get across to a lot of people is say what you want to say. Like, don't hold in anything. Yes, you might need to process it. So like if something triggers you and you feel yourself getting a little upset, step back, let that sit with you, process it. But then go to that person and be like, listen, this is why it triggered me a little bit, I now understand it. And rather than, because I find if you don't, then a week later and somebody says boo to you and you're like, you know.
Yeah, and to be honest, I used to be like that in certain situations, that I'd just be like, okay, yeah, it's grand. And then you hold that in, and then that like starts to build, and you have resentment towards another person then. But also I feel like what really helped me when I wasn't vocal for a certain amount of time, or with certain people, or, you know, if you don't feel comfortable to say things to certain people, I always just look at it now, and someone respects you a lot more for actually telling them how you feel. And you literally like, and the one thing that's like ingrained in my brain now is like, you are not responsible for somebody else's feelings. You can only say how you feel, and however the other person takes it, that's it. But it gets it off your heart, and it gets it off your chest. And, you know, if somebody respects you and, you know, loves you and cares about you, they're not gonna react badly. And if they do react badly, I mean, you know, with all due respect, that's on them. Do you know what I mean?
One thing that I've said it to a few people when they're kind of chit-chatting to me or, you know, confiding in me, I'm like, the best thing you can do is to be able to differentiate between a you problem and like a me problem. You know, like, so someone could be having a really bad day and completely blow off on you. And if you look at things differently, you could be like, well, they're fucking pricking, you know, why that's fucking after ruining my day, rather than being like, okay, that's a you problem. You literally just blew off for a you reason that's nothing got to do with me. And then you walk away from it, and it's done. But you have left that with that person because that's a them problem. Rather than now taking it into being a me problem.
But that's it. Like, you're responsible for your own feelings, and, you know, you can't let, I suppose, if every day we got out of bed like worrying about everyone else or taking things personally that other people say, we actually wouldn't be able to get out of bed in the morning.
No.
So like, and I think it's
no.
becoming aware of that, you know. But in terms of being vocal, absolutely. I think once you say to somebody how you feel, whether it's about another person or it's just about how you feel about a situation, you know, I can't express the importance of that, like how it's helped me. Once you are respectful in how you say it, you're not angry, you're not coming across as angry, or you're not, you know, emotionally dumping, I suppose, on someone either. But
no, but it goes to everything. It doesn't even come to trauma in the workplace. You know, being able to say to your work colleague, look, say they are emotionally dumping on you, being like, look, this is work, I just want to get my job done.
Boundaries.
You know, boundaries. We have, like, as people, have lost all sense of boundaries. And another thing that I find is the word selfish has got such a bad name for itself. Being selfish is not bad. It does not make you a bad person.
No.
To survive, you have to be selfish. Like, if we go back to cave people, I'm not going to offer you my piece of chicken that I just hunted. You know, you fend for yourself. You know, but like, that's not, like, if you're not selfish, you won't survive. If you're not, but that goes to everything, your mental health, your time. You know, time is such a precious thing. It goes back to only having 100%. One life.
Completely agree.
Use it, like,
100%.
Be selfish with your time. You're never going to get that time back.
I think it's like being selfish with your time, being selfish with your energy, just your overall energy, and like, it's like, who cares? Like actually, who cares? Just be selfish. Like,
no,
that's it. Like, once you're not hurting anybody else, that's the main thing, I think.
That's it. Like, it's just if I could even just get rid of like the badness around the word selfish. Being selfish is so leave us is so important. But back on to
I knew we'd ramble.
I know, but that was given. So from a point of view with me, and like, so I was literally, as I was saying earlier, like 2 moves away from killing myself. So And I've openly said before that before I was in that position, I looked at suicide as an extremely selfish thing. I think a lot of people do that are uneducated about it. Not even uneducated. It just, I feel like the conversations don't get deep enough to actually
100%.
comprehend where that mindset is. So if anyone ever asked me kind of like, how do I feel? I'm like, oh, they're so selfish. How could they ever do that to their family members? And that was honestly what came out of my mouth until I was on that door. So how did you feel like that? Did you feel how like that was such a selfish?
No. And I agree 100% with what you just said. Like, I do feel like there is a lot of people that would consider that selfish. Like, absolutely. Like, a lot of people still would. I never looked at it like a selfish thing, not once.
Which is very strong, because I would be like...
And I don't know if that's because I've experienced it and someone I love has... It's happened to. I don't know if that is why, but I think what's kind of my mentality around it is some people look at it and be like, that's a really selfish thing to do, whereas I look at it and think, how intense, or how, imagine what was going on in somebody's life in order for them to feel like killing themselves was easier than living or talking about it or whatever it was. That's the sad part about it, and I think that's what needs to be looked at more than like, oh, that's selfish. Like, no, it's sad. It's so sad that somebody feels that is the easier option. When you have one life, that's the easier option for some people. And that's a scary thing. It's sad and it's scary, and it's, you know, it's not talked about enough. Like, I remember, you know, saying to people are like, oh, like, you know, how did your mom die? And I'd say suicide. And like, I'm fine saying that word. Like, but they kind of go, oh. And I'm like, don't get awkward. Imagine having to say, don't get awkward, because I said the word suicide. Because they feel uncomfortable, but that's a you problem, but I'm just saying. Do you know what I mean?
It is, like, it shouldn't be an awkward thing. We should be discussing it so much and looking at the root of the problem. And I was only chatting about it that counselling should be compulsory in secondary schools.
100%.
Like, a monthly counselling session in a secondary school should be compulsory. The amount of stuff that's eating disorders, panic attacks, self-harm,
and just on that,
trouble in homes. Like,
just on that, like, and I remember, you know, talking to certain family members and stuff about at the time that my mum died, which would have been about like 21 years ago now. And I remember my uncle saying to me, you know, Laura, like, you know, talking to someone wasn't a thing back then. You couldn't just go really feeling like this and really feeling low and just gonna Google counsellors or Google someone who can help me. That wasn't a done thing now. And, you know, now it is. And there's so many tools, there's like so many resources, whether, you know, some people, you know, oh yeah, counselling, they don't feel comfortable. There is so many other tools available now. There's still such like a stigma around mental health, or I feel like sometimes there's like nearly an embarrassment about it. Do you know what I mean?
It's the same with taking tablets. Like, because I had such a thing about taking tablets when I was going to the doctor. As I said, I had to bring my mum with me. Because I was panicked that the doctor would think I just want to pop pills for the crack of it, that I wasn't bad enough, or, you know, this was the weak way out, that I should be able to solve my shit myself. But now, having gone through it and like done my research and done my study and been talking to different people, I know, you know, it's not that way. Fair enough, things were different, and this is like what I'd love to get through to the generations before us who are still struggling mentally, is that it is not too late to go and deal. Like, my mum has had an awful lot of trauma, and like, she talks to me and she's like, you know, I'm so proud of you how you can talk about your problems. And, you know, you went and looked for help. And I was like, Mum, you can too. I'm like, it is not too, oh, Rebekah, you know, I've covered it up for so long. And I'm like, but you've so long left. I'm like, could you imagine how you can live the rest of your life with the being able to breathe? You know, and God, it's got to be rough, because obviously the older you are, the more shit you've like bundled down in there,
and that like filters out in different ways as well. You know, whether that is like a panic attack or it's like not being able to deal with, you know, different situations, it filters out of you eventually, and that is
But
100%.
it filters out to you, but it filters out to you into your kids as well.
Generational, yeah.
You know, like emotional decoding.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but like you can literally inherit certain things from your grandparents through the womb, like through the generation, through the genes, but like from your mum to your womb and stuff, you know. And I'm like, it's not just for you. Yes, you should be 110% doing it for you. Be selfish, motherfuckers. But like, do it for your like generation, your spawn. Yeah. You know. Yeah. It is, and I'm like, go to fucking counselling. And she's like, Rebekkah, there's nothing they can do for me now. And I'm like, there is. There's so much.
There's always something that can be done.
But no, like I find it incredible that you can. I feel like I'd be so angry.
Yeah.
So it's really impressive.
Now, I was angry for a long time, Becky. Like, you know me. I'm a fiery bitch when I want to be.
Oh, yeah.
We all know that. But there was a time, look, don't get me wrong, like, I say this as if it was like, oh, I just went to counselling and then I was like skipping through roses. Like, it wasn't like that. And there was there was a time that I was so angry. I was so angry, and it was like, I had a victim mentality. Like, this happened to me. This actually happened to me. Like, I can't believe this, blah, blah, blah. And like, but like, when you actually look around and you speak to other people, like every single person has their shit. And you need to own your shit. Do you know what I mean? That is it. Everybody has a story. It might not be the same. It might be slightly similar, but everybody has it. And then you kind of realise when you hear other people's stories or things that other people have been through, it nearly takes a load off, because not that you're happy that they're going through what they're going through, but you're like, everybody has it. So it's like nearly something that all of us as humans have in common, but we don't talk about it enough. So then we have a victim mentality and we're like, I'm the only person this has happened to, until you actually talk about it.
And I think it's a really important thing to note that everybody's problems, they're so different, but at the end of the day,
we want the same thing.
We do want the same thing, but you can't compare your problem to somebody else's problem, because your problem is the biggest thing you've ever dealt with in your life. 100%. So to you, it is the biggest trauma ever. So just because you're like, well, they have it worse, they don't. No. You know, it's just that.
That's nearly like deflecting it.
That's
like,
I'm fine. You can't, you know, and I think that's really important for people hearing and hearing the stories that will come on through further in the podcast. Is like, everybody's story is each to their own. Yeah. And, you know, it is the worst thing that you've gone through, so that you are still processing it as a trauma, and respect that in a way. Sorry, that fly is like, the next podcast is going to have like a little like air spray. Like,
you should have one, I know.
I'm just going to check the camera. Yeah, we're all good. I'm like conscious because the last time I cut out at 30 minutes. Okay. Because I'm still new. I'm gonna order a mic, and then I'm gonna be like super professional.
Can we order the headphones as well?
Oh my gosh.
On a table.
A headphones and a table. But like, have you ever contemplated suicide?
Never in my life.
And do you think that is because
I've experienced or I've lost someone to it?
Yeah, like, do you feel, because you're obviously on the side of, you're the family that's lost. Yeah. Whereas, so when I was going to do it, I was on the other side and thinking, you will be grand. Yeah. You know, everybody dies, you'll mourn and you'll get over it. You know, that's how my head processed it.
Yeah, like, I would say, like, I think that is why. I've never contemplated it. I've never considered it, and that is hand on heart truth. I just never have. Yeah. And yes, I think probably the majority of that is to do with the fact that I've seen what it done to my family at the time. Okay. Like, you know, there's certain members of my family that they haven't actually gotten over it. Like, yeah. And it's not something that you do get over. You get through it and you learn how to manage it, and you come to an acceptance to a certain extent. But it leaves a hole that, you know, it's something that's happened to you, and it's you don't get over it. You know, you do find a way to accept it. So I think it's the unanswered questions that are left when it comes to a family who is lost. Okay. You know, a lot of people say, like, and, you know, oh, is there something we could have done, or how did we not notice it, and blah, blah. And then you start to, like, self-blame. Now, obviously, at the time, I was a child, so I personally didn't get that. Yeah. That from them sort of questions. But you know, people start to think, well, how do we not notice this, or what could we have done, what we could have done, and like there is like nothing that we could have done, and I'm sorry if that sounds blunt, like there's literally nothing
like there was nothing that anybody
could have said to you,
could have said to me,
you know,
to change it,
you
know, and nobody knew about me. Like I hid my depression and I hid an awful, you know what I hid, that I don't go in, that I will down the line, but I don't go into now. And nobody knew, like you didn't know.
I know.
You know, like nobody knew.
And I think that's why it's a shock for a lot of people, like, you know, when something like that does happen, you literally feel like you have been hit by a bus, because you're like, what the hell? Like, it's such a shock. Because some people, but like, they seem fine. You know?
But and everybody,
you know,
like on Instagram, say I would have looked hunky-dory, like I would have, it would, sorry, piece of fluff. Like nobody would have ever considered, like even I was going to events and I would have been roaring crying to events, done the event, and everybody would be like, look at her, she's so fucking lucky getting free shit going to event, and then roar cried the home.
Social media is in real life, you know what I mean?
And there's literally, that's one thing I can get out to anybody, is that when you have got that deep, there is nothing you can do.
And that's facts. That is
nothing
fact, you know.
My dad was calling me, making sure I was okay. He was asking me if I wanted to come down to the house to watch a movie, to get some food, and I was like, no, I'm grand, honestly, I'm grand. And that was the night that I went to, like, nobody, unless they literally locked me in a room of bubble wrap. But they wouldn't have known, because they didn't know, because I hid it so well. I had an act that belonged, I should have got an Oscar, realistically. Like, you know, just saying. But that's one thing, that is the fact that you didn't contemplate.
No, I think it had like the opposite effect on me. Which I'm delighted about. you know, not that doesn't happen to everybody, but it didn't. No, not once. Not once.
Mad. Okay, so we are back. I just had to charge up the camera because my equipment.
Because we're really prepared.
Gotta get there slowly but steady. It's Christmas time, so if anybody wants to treat me, I need a mic. No, but so we've kind of touched on a lot. How are you feeling?
I feel fine, because I feel like I know it's just a chat. You know what I mean? And I think I used to get really like, I don't talk to anybody about this. But and I think I only said this to you yesterday. Like, that's who I am. Do you know what I mean? This is what has happened to me, has kind of made up the person that I am today. And it's part of my story. So before, I used to kind of shy away from it and be really like, don't even talk about it. Whereas now, like, if someone asks me a question, like, if that can help one person to either like take a step forward or feel okay to discuss something with somebody, like, I think that's what's important. I think when bad situations happen, or you find yourself, you know, going through certain things, if you can kind of flip how you look at it and turn it into a positive by possibly helping someone else or reaching one person, that's enough for me. Do you know what I mean? So I would rather use it and speak about it in the hopes that it reaches one person ever, than not speak about it at all. Do you know what I mean? And people be like, what's going on? What do I do? You know, so
I think that's really important. And what I have found since I've started talking about stuff that I've gone through and things like that, it really opens your eyes to how uncomfortable it can make people. And I feel that it was one thing my mum and stepdad said was like, Rebekkah, you're going to trigger a lot of people. And I literally was like, fuck yeah, I am. And if you're triggered, you need to look inside.
Look at that.
Look inside. You're triggered for a reason. And I'm going to continue to trigger people.
But this is what we were like talking about, that people are like mirrors, like people that you speak to are like mirrors. So like if you're triggered by something, they're bringing out something that isn't healed yet.
Yeah.
Or that you need to address. That's what I think anyway.
That's it. Like if something doesn't sit well with you,
yeah,
that's because there's something inside you that needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
1,000,000%.
And that is where I've realised I've got interesting support from people I might not have expected it from.
Mm-hmm.
And then not off people that I would have thought I'd expect it from.
Yeah.
Which has been a real eye-opener,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and within the social media world, I find that this topic is looked at, any topic that is at all controversial, is scared away from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, build a set of fucking balls.
Mm-hmm.
This is so important.
Mm-hmm.
So important. But yet, if I do a nice photo and dress really nice and put it up, everybody will share it and it'll hit the likes. But put something controversial up.
People aren't comfortable when there's like any sort of like change or anything that they can't deal with. You know what I mean? You don't grow from comfort zones.
No.
Boom. Do you know what I mean?
Boom. What should I say? A calm sea does not make a skilled sailor.
I mean, I feel like you couldn't sail anyway, but... yeah, no, it is. It's so true. It's so true.
You know, continuously push yourself out of your comfort zone. It's even, I was chatting to you about the IFS summit.
Yeah.
And you said that I got the dates mixed up and you said you couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I still booked my ticket to solo travel to Lisbon. Yeah. And I was just like, Rebekkah, fuck it. Like,
it is the best.
And now obviously you're coming with me, which is even better.
Yeah.
But
all convincing.
when I got the dates right eventually. But it's like, I just done it. Like, you have to scare yourself. You have to push yourself. You have to...
Top tip on that as well. Mel Robbins. Do you ever read any Mel Robbins books?
No.
She has one like the 5-second rule.
Okay.
Right? And it's
obviously
like,
not to do with food.
Well, you can use it in anything. You can use it with everything.
That was my favourite. 5-second rule.
No, I don't. Yeah.
Rebekkah that landed in shit. 5-second rule.
Ask Mel Robbins, I swear it's true. But she basically says that if you are going to do something, right, so whether that be go and speak to someone or like a choice or a decision or a goal or whatever it is that you're going to do, you need to take action within the first 5 seconds, because if you don't, your brain talks you out of it.
Oh my god, I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
Man.
So like say like you're like lying in bed because you are not a morning person. If anybody's seen us this morning, she was like fossilized. I mean, like couldn't get, and I'm like
so
morning.
bad.
Like,
it was like 9:30 and Laura like bounded into the room. The dogs were like, what the fuck? I was like, what the fuck? And she was like, you got out of bed very quickly considering you're crippled. I was like, I was scared shitless. I was not prepared. Nobody.
Stop. This will be good. This will be good. So like if you're lying in bed and you're like, I really need to get up. I need to get up. You need to like count down from 5, 5, 4, open the thing, 3, 2, 1. And
where see, I'd be like 5, 4, 3, 2.
No, you need to take action because your brain. But I think that's really important for like decisions in general. Maybe for you that's like minor.
So the next time I'm swiping on Tinder, 5, 4, 3, so I'm like 5, like no.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But really good.
Okay,
really good thing.
That.
Yeah, 5-second rule, and like anybody who hasn't like listened to Mel Robbins, like big fan, would recommend. But yeah, it's about how your brain like, and she had somebody just on what we were talking about.
Yeah.
She had somebody, I can't remember whose show she was on, but some guy came out and was like, I was about to commit suicide, and your 5-second rule came into my head. It was like standing on the edge of a bridge. And for whatever reason, Mel Robbins came into his head, her 5-second rule. Like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stood down. You can actually look this up on YouTube.
Right.
And saved his life. So, I mean, there's getting out of bed for you.
Yeah.
But that's my point, that it can be used in a lot of things. But, you
it's
know.
mad. Like, you know, and that, it goes back to, like, imagine she didn't share that.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like,
share your, and this goes back to, and that's why this podcast is going to be so open. If you're sitting there and watching it and feel like anything, it could be like, I'm going to go down the line of being bullied in school because I had to move school twice.
Yeah.
You know, like it can be anything. It doesn't have to, like it can literally be anything.
Yeah.
And you feel like you can share, or like every little thing will resonate with something, and you never know when you get on the couch like where it starts to go. But yeah, like send me a message and you're more than welcome to come in and we'll chit chat on the couch. It's so important to share and talk, and I think every time you share it you learn something new. You learn something new about yourself, you learn something new about how to communicate. It's fascinating. Like, we will finish this and later on we'll be like, oh my god, I just learned, you know, like things click. It's just it's an unbelievable thing when you actually start opening up and sharing.
Yeah.
It's
and
refreshing.
I think like we did that today. We were talking about you know, even that on like, have I ever contemplated suicide? And I was like, I can't even like personally comprehend that, but you can. And then you couldn't at that time when you were going through that, you couldn't comprehend what somebody who has lost somebody to in that way could feel like. So I was like, I never really thought about it like that. Like, you know, so you're learning something from me and I'm learning something from you in terms of how you were thinking and how I was and how you deal with things and how I deal with things. So
it's fascinating. It's like even things like, so obviously when I was, the night that I was going to kill myself, I brought the dogs with me. Because obviously the dogs got me through so much.
I know.
You know, I got the dogs came after I miscarried, and obviously my home life wasn't very good, so they saved me from a lot of different things. And my thought process was, if I left them behind, are they going to be separated? Who's going to take them? Who's going to look after them? Will they be okay? Whereas I kind of justified that everybody else would be okay because that's what happens, you know. And I know they're only dogs, but to me they are my children.
Oh my god, dogs are like, you can't never say that again.
Yeah, like, but I think some people don't understand that unless you're a true dog person. And this might hit a few nerves when I say this,
That's what we're here for.
but I can understand now when you hear stories of parents killing their kids. You know, I know it's only a dog, but to them, they've literally been my lifesavers through everything. And being worried about leaving them behind, your mind completely, like, there they are there. I don't know if you can hear them, they're coming looking for me now.
I think everyone in Wicklow can hear them.
Yeah. The hounds! But it did kind of make me realise it was easier for me to take them with me than worry about what they would be left with. And I think that was madness. Like, after I was thinking about it, I was like, holy shit, that's terrifying.
Yeah. That's actually, and I don't know if you know that, but the night that my mum died, a lot of stuff happened that night, but that same sort of thing did happen. Like, I was close to dying that night and not from anything that I was doing. But it was definitely, and you know, we spoke to, well, I didn't, but the family spoke to like psychologists and everything else, and they basically said, you know, if she was doing that in her head, like, Laura was going with her. Because she didn't want to leave me there.
And that is, I think, in the weirdest way.
No, but that's love.
That is strongest.
That is love. Yeah.
Like this, and the strongest form of love, where people, I think, look at it being like, did they not love their kids enough? They loved them so much
that they didn't want them
they
to
were
be here.
willing to do that,
to
not leave them behind. And that doesn't mean that they didn't love everyone else in the family, but they truly felt that nobody could ever care for them the way that they can.
And I remember.
And that is why. And it's just...
But it's so funny because I remember talking to my therapist, and I told her about that night in you know, quite a lot of detail. She goes, what do you take from that? You know, like that whole situation that you just told me, you know, what, and my brain never went, because she said to me, you know, do you feel that your mom abandoned you?
Yeah.
I was like, no. I was like, that never crossed my mind.
Which is fascinating as well, because that's what I would have assumed you'd feel.
Never felt like that at all.
Yeah.
And she goes, so what does it mean for you? Like, what happened that night? I was like, that she loved me so much that she didn't want me to be here without her. Yeah. And then I remember just like absolutely like floods of tears.
Yeah.
Because I said it out loud.
Yeah.
And she was like, that is exactly what that is.
Yeah.
That is exactly what that is. So I fully understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, I can fully relate to that.
Yeah. And I think why I was worried about saying it was because they're dogs. But like, to me, we've just been through so much trauma together, you know. But that is such a bond that it's terrifying.
Yeah.
That is a terrifying bond.
Yeah.
That you're willing to kill someone.
Yeah.
Just. Yeah. So they won't be without you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in a weird way, it like helped me because I knew how much she loved me.
Yeah,
so
you were like, so loved.
I was so loved. Like, I was so loved. You know, like that was never a doubt in my mind. There was never a time I was like, she didn't love me because, you know, that's what she did. I've never felt like that. And I know from stories anyway, but I remember how I felt when she was alive. Yeah. So I knew that for a fact, you know. Yeah. So even though it was like really distressing situation, she loved me. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and that's that feeling and knowing that's what I hold on to. Do you know what I mean? And that's all you can hold on to, you know? So
whereas with your dad, it's a completely different thing. And I think, like, just because this one's quite long, but like down the line, we might do another one and talk about kind of how you felt with your dad not being around and then finding out your brother.
Stay tuned. We could delve in all day, but yeah, no, absolutely, yeah, and it's all different emotions and all different situations, you know. But this is what I was saying to you yesterday: is as like hard as it is, and everything happens in people's lives. Like, the one thing that like I try to hold on to, and I found that it really helped me, is like the feeling of love. Do you know what I mean? And like to really look around and know that you are loved, if you are feeling like that, like there is love all around you. Yeah. Do you know? Yeah. And I think that for me really helped me. And it might even be like small little things, like but that's definitely something that I've carried with me, and that's what I took from it, you know. Yeah.
No, it's not like it is. It's even like, I sometimes think, like, it hasn't even been a year since I tried to kill myself. Like, you can do so much, you know, by working on yourself and
working on your mindset as well, because I feel like when your mind is, I suppose, a nice place to be, and you know, you feel very in control and very empowered. It doesn't really matter what external circumstances happen. Because you're okay in your own mind, and that is like the
getting there though, like,
of course,
and 100%. Like that's another thing that I will discuss, are like different techniques down the line of how like I was able to change my mindset into a more kind of positive, and a lot of it's got to do with being grateful and like writing things down that you're grateful for. I think that's really important. But I'll do a whole session on journaling and stuff like that. But if you were to give one message, to someone that, if you were going to give, what would you say to your younger self?
Oh my god.
Because I changed it up. I kind of told you what I was going to ask, and then I changed it.
The camera battery will go again by the time I think about it. A message to my younger self. Nothing is as bad as you actually think that it is. As blunt as that is. And every bad situation that does happen, it'll pass. The same way with good situations. But I think, that is actually what I would say. You weren't expecting that.
No. And that's kind of like, it's the second one that's kind of taken my breath away, because like, holy moly, like that really caught me now. Yeah. In the gut. In the gut. Like, every bad situation does pass, which is great, but as does the good. And I think that's what's
ebb and flow
after like making me really emotional,
yeah
because it is sad that the good times do pass. And as quickly, if not quicker.
Yeah.
So hold on to them, you know, like hold on to everything.
Yeah. And there is, you know, and people that love you as well. There is people that love you no matter how bad things feel. And that is so easy for me to say because I'm in an emotionally good place. So it's so easy for me to say that. But when obviously you're feeling like that, and you probably felt like that as well, Becky, that you can't see the wood from the trees. Like you're just like nobody cares, and it's just you feel that's how you feel.
Yeah.
And
but you feel like this badness is going to be forever. That this is your you're stuck in this swamp of gunk that's just surrounding you and choking you and never letting you go.
Yeah,
it does. It lets you go.
Yeah,
and when you wash that gunk off, you see so much clearer.
You literally rise out like a mermaid.
Like a mermaid.
Do you know what I mean?
Like
no, it's so true. It is. It's so true.
Like, so
Time
if you are in any kind of situation, like it gets better.
Yeah.
But you gotta put the work in.
Yeah.
And the work is shit, the work is hard, the work is freaking exhausting.
Oh, exhausting.
Exhausting, but it is
so tired from it, like
so worth it.
Yeah.
So worth it.
Yeah. 100%.
You glow you glow different, don't you? That's one thing. Everyone's like, what's your skin routine? I'm like, self-awareness, baby. You know?
Yeah.
I'm like, and if I can get that out to everybody, like, it's so worth it. It's so shit, but it's so worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So worth it. Right, so we have a dilemma.
Okay.
So I will kind of be doing I'll ask on my Instagram, so make sure you follow me there, and I'll answer. We'll kind of go through, depending on how long the podcast was, we'll go through one. So this one is I've been hemming and hawing about starting to see a counsellor, but I really don't know if I'll know what to say, how to start, or how I will feel. Okay, so we all know we love counsellors.
Actually would give them every cent that I have.
Yeah. And the thing is your first, second, third, fourth, fifth counsellor might not be the counsellor for you.
100% would agree with that, and you'll know.
Yeah, you'll know. I think I always kind of go like 3 times. I think 3 times is
Did you go? I knew my first session and it was my first counsellor. How lucky is that? Like,
okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I've been to a few, and I kind of always give it 3 times, so at least they kind of can get used to you.
Yeah.
And then by the 3rd one, if you're not on a solid gel, I'm like, you're cut.
And a good counsellor will always say to you at the end of your first session, well, I know mine did, I don't know about any of yours, Rebekah, they'll always say, look, I'm not going to contact you if you feel that we connected or that you were comfortable enough. Let me know, but I completely understand if you know you don't want to see me again. A good counsellor will always say that, in my opinion. They'll always say that. They understand that.
I don't think I gave mine the choice. I was like, what time next week? I was like, just fucking put me in. And like I was so relaxed with mine.
So was I.
Like, and they will say things that will annoy you and trigger you,
my God,
and you will sulk, and you will be so unhappy, and you will not want to go back. But they're the times you go back. It's the days that you don't want to go are generally, I find, the most important days, because when you don't want to go, your body's trying to like be like, oh, I don't want to break this barrier, so I'm just going to put you off from going, and then you go and you have this like breakthrough of something.
And I feel like counsellors have different tools they use. They're like talking about like what to talk about or how to bring things up. They ask certain questions in a certain way that naturally won't make you feel uncomfortable. And I know my counsellor was always, she'd ask me something and I'd start saying something. She's like, no, listen to what I'm asking. You're going like round and round and roundabout. Think about it and say it again. And I'm like,
you
don't want to say it. God damn it.
Yeah, so to wrap kind of it up, if you're nervous about going to a counsellor, don't be. They are the bomb. I feel everybody should be going to one, even if it's monthly or every 2 months. You know, I feel like everybody should be seeing one. Don't be nervous going in. What needs to come out in that session will come out in the session. I've gone into a session and literally told my counsellor, be like, I don't want to be here today. I don't want to talk to you. I literally sat there and I was like an antichrist. I was like, don't want to be here today and I have nothing to say to you. And she was like, that's fine, I'll sit here in silence then. And then about 5 minutes later I was like, oh, you know, like, so what has to come out in that session will come out and the counsellor will guide it.
Yes.
Don't feel like if your first counsellor flops that is the end of it for you. It does take a while to find them. People will talk to you, like my doctor was like, I don't know how I feel about counsellors. Sometimes you just verbal vomit and it's just like a pool of stuff on the floor left to settle. Don't let people talk you out of counsellors. You know, and there's so much different array. It just takes you a while to figure out what type of counselling suits you.
Yeah, definitely.
But do it. Do it for you. I thought going into a counsellor I'd come out like I was walking on clouds after deloading.
Emotionally exhausted after counselling.
I slept non-stop when I was going through the depth of it.
It's like a hangover. It's an emotional hangover for me it's like the 24 hours after. I'm just dead.
Don't feel like you're going to go into a counsellor and walk out and be like, oh my god, I just, you know, feel like amazing. You don't. You feel like shit.
The next day though, and over like the gradual weeks of doing it, you're like, oh my god, I can handle that situation. And I don't know about you, Rebekah, like I used to feel like when every week I'd be like, oh god, I don't know what to do here, I have to tell my counsellor about it, I have to tell Sarah about that, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then like as the weeks went on and as the months went on, I was like, I've got this. Like I've actually got this. I know how to handle this. Like this is fine. Like, do you know what I mean? So,
I remember my last session, I was sitting there and we were like chatting about like random, like it was just random, and she was like, yeah, I think this is your last session. And it was just, I was like, oh fuck, what am I gonna do with you? And she was like, Rebekkah, we've literally, like, we could have just gone for coffee. There was like, no, that wasn't a therapy session, that was literally just a chit chat. So yeah, just prepared when you're going into counsellor that when you're coming out you might not feel great. It's over the next couple of weeks you start to kind of feel better, and then you realise that you've nothing really to talk about to your counsellor anymore, and that's kind of when you can decide, right, we can take a break, and then you'll acknowledge, right, okay, maybe I'm getting a little bit itchy, maybe it's time to go back, and then go back on a monthly basis and just do a check-in. But 100% don't ever be afraid to go to counsellor. It is probably one of the best self-help things that you can do. It'll take a while to figure out the right one, but thumbs up, do it. Do it.
100%.
But yeah, so make sure to follow me on Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Instagram, I'll update kind of what the next podcast, give a little sneak peek. That's where you can send all your dilemmas into. Make sure that you put barn chats first, so I know it's a dilemma that I can take onto the podcast. But yeah, send them on, and if there's anything that you say, obviously they're all completely anonymous. But if there is, you just want to chat and you want a little advice, just send me a message. I'm here. I'm more than happy. You'll probably get a voice note back because my typing, sometimes I don't have time. But I'm happy I can maybe spin it onto a more positive outlook. Sometimes you just need someone else just to kind of step out of the picture for you. But yeah, if you like, hit a like. And Laura will definitely be back onto the channel. We're going to do a Tinder Tales series. We've some interesting Tinder date stories.
I think you have more than me.
I definitely do. Nobody else. But I will give you guys plenty of notice for the Tinder Tales because I want your stories too. But yeah, I hope you guys learned something from this podcast. And as always, my messages are always open, and I will see you next Sunday. Mwah, mwah. Bye. Bye. Oh, I should actually have like, thank you. Anytime. That's terrible. I'm like, oh. But yeah, no, thank you so much for coming on. High five. To us.
Absolutely.
Pack of fucking legends.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. You heard it here first.